I just wish, I wish that, and this is an open invitation, I wish that I could get Kamala to come on the show and answer the question. Hold on, I'm being told by a producer. Yep, we've got Kamala Harris. Kamala, Madam Vice President, my apologies. Can you tell us whether you will be running for governor or vice president?
But listen, here's the thing, okay? And when you think about it, when you think about all of the things in their totality, right? What you need to think about the most is that whether I'm doing something in the present or in the future, right? I mean, full stop, here's what you need to think about, that we can be unburdened by what has been, right? And in order for me to become the governor of California, that is a thing that might very well happen, right?
All right, guys, good Thursday to you. We are literally on a glide path to the weekend. Of course, at least here in the greater DC area, it looks like it's going to rain, but I think that's just because I failed to do anything last weekend on my to-do list, that the gods were like, hey, no excuses this weekend. So anyway, I hope it is good weather where you're going. We've got a great show tomorrow. James Blair, White House Deputy Political Director, is going to join us. You remember him from the campaign. He was the political director. He's overseeing the big, beautiful bill, getting all the votes. At least that's what I'm going to tell him. So make sure you hit that notification button now, because that's going to be amazing. In the last 24 hours, Karine Jean Pierre announced a new book. Oh my God, I'm so excited for the panel's take on this. Trump spoke to both Putin in Russia, China's Xi. It's so much going on. And Trump's actually also announcing an investigation into the Biden AUTOPEN, official, not just Congress is looking into, he's telling the White House to do it. So we got so much going on. Before I bring in the panel, guys, if you look at the calendar, you know it's June 5th. April 15th with tax deadline. A lot of us didn't file our tax returns. I'm not saying it's just me, but I was one of those people. If you have unfiled or unpaid taxes from years, if you are in trouble with the IRS, you guys, we talk about the DOJ all the time. Remember, we had Christina Bobb on talking about the DOJ and how much they bring to the fight. The IRS is no less equipped. They file 5,000 liens a day. It's wage garnishment, property seizures. They've got the full force of the government. So if you have unfiled taxes, unpaid taxes, whatever it is, or you know somebody who does, and they're just avoiding reality, I get April 15th was the tax deadline, but you can't keep putting it off. The IRS will come for you. The best people in the business are the folks at Tax Network USA. Give them a call. Call 1-800-958-1000 or visit them, tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. One word. It's like Madonna, but Sean Spicer, no spaces. 1-800-958-1000 or tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. You may have missed the April 15th deadline, but I'm telling you, the folks at Tax Network USA are the best in the business. They've recovered over $1 billion for their customers, and they know who to talk to at the IRS and who not to talk to. Do not try to face the IRS or anyone in the government by yourselves. Get professional help. If this is you, give them a ring or go to tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. All right. We've talked about wellness. We bring up Maha all the time. You guys know that that's been a big thing. At the end of the day, what it all comes down to, you can do a lot of healthy things, but if you don't get a good night's sleep, it doesn't matter. And that's why I've added Beam's Dream Powder into my routine every night. Look, I've now added a third bag. Check this out. This is not just an ad. I take this every night. When I traveled earlier this week, I went up to New York. I brought Beam in a little baggie. This stuff is a must in my daily routine. I take it every night. One scoop, I put it in the microwave for 30 seconds. If I'm traveling and I don't have a microwave, I just take it raw. It is that big of a deal. And I tell you, when I have Beam after and go to sleep 30 minutes later, I wake up feeling refreshed, ready to go, because there's nothing like it. You've tried it in the past. I've tried it in the past. Melatonin, magnesium. It has all of those natural ingredients, including reishi, apigenin, L-theanine, all in one delicious blend. That's the cocoa cinnamon. That's my favorite. I admit it. I choose among equals, but the brownie and the peppermint are equally good. It's amazing. So many people have changed to Beam and made it part of their routine every night. Athletes, professionals, everyday people. But if you're not getting a good night's sleep, everything else is for naught. So trust me when I tell you, you are going to see an amazing change by trying Dreams Beam Powder and adding it into your routine, just like I did. They've already helped 17.5 million nights of sleep around. It's amazing what it is. And once you try it, you'll be like me. You'll travel with this thing. Here's the best deal. Beam is giving my listeners the ultimate Patriot discount, 40% off of any of the flavors. You don't have to try try them all. Like I did. I still love the other ones. Don't get me wrong. But the cocoa cinnamon is my favorite. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer and use code Spicer. So you have to do two things. Shopbeam.com/Spicer. Use code Spicer for 40% off. Support a great American company and take steps in your life to make wellness a priority by getting a good night's sleep. Go to shopbeam.com/Spicer. Use code word Spicer. I am so excited to finally welcome in this all-star panel, our longtime friend, an expert on the media from the Media Research Center, the executive editor of Newsbusters, our friend Tim Graham, former Congresswoman, doctor, and just all-around great person, Nan Hayworth. And for the first time ever, I'm so excited to welcome to the show Elsa Kurt. She is the host of the Elsa Kurt Show, a great person, a funny person with great commentary all the time. Elsa, welcome. I'm so excited you're here. Guys, I know there's a lot going on and I want to get to it, but I just can't help starting with Karine Jean Pierre's new book. I want to just show you a clip in case you missed the news because there's so much going on in Trump world. Sometimes people miss it. Here is her announcing on Instagram her brand new book. Take a look.
Hi, I'm Karine Jean Pierre, and I am the author of a new book that's coming out this fall called Independent. It's coming out on October 21st, so please do grab it. And the reason I wrote this book coming out of the White House, serving as White House press secretary was an honor and a privilege. But since I have left, the people that come up to me, strangers that come up to me just across the country as I'm traveling, and sometimes right in my neighborhood, at a grocery store, supermarket, airport, my daughter's school, the number one question they ask me is, Karine, how do we get out of this? How do we protect our democracy? How do we protect vulnerable communities among us? What do we do next? Because we don't have answers here. That's what they ask me. And this is my answer. And what I mean by that is, in an era of misinformation, disinformation, the regressiveness of social policy, what we're seeing currently right now, what I have decided to do, and I really have thought long and hard about this, is to follow my own compass. And that's what I've done. And that's what this book does. And here's the truth. And here's how I will lay it out to you. I think we need to stop thinking in boxes and think outside of our boxes and not be so partisan. And the way that I see moving forward in this space that we're in right now is, if you are willing to stand side by side with me, regardless of your how you identify politically, and as long as you respect the community that I belong to and vulnerable communities that I respect, I will be there with you. I will move forward with you. And that is, I think, so important. So this book, Independent, it's about looking outside of boxes, not just always being in a partisan stance. And how do we move forward together in a compassionate way, in a way that really, truly cares about people? October 21st.
All right. Nan Hayworth, you are up there in New York. You've been to a grocery store and a supermarket, which, again, I'm not even going to get into. I didn't know that there was a difference, but it's Karine Jean Pierre, so I'll give her a pass on that. Do you ever have people coming up to you in grocery stores and supermarkets in New York and asking you, how do we get out of this?
No, unless they're talking about how do I get to, the produce department from the deli or something, but no.
Tim Graham, I can't imagine anybody actually paying her money for this book.
The best gag I heard on this one was, and John Kirby will read the audiobook.
Again, for those who don't get it, he was the co-press secretary. National security spokesman. That's actually, I like that. I may steal that, Tim Graham. So if that was yours, I apologize.
No, I can't take credit, but nobody should buy this book or this spin. The idea that somehow she's independent or that she's a voice against misinformation after we had all those years of Joe's fine, he's totally fine.
He runs circles around me. Elsa Kurt, welcome to the show. I got to be honest. At first, I was like, as I said to Tim Graham, I was like, who will pay for this? And then I thought to myself, all right, if I was her and I watched Jake Tapper just write a book about Biden's decline after covering it up, I'd be like, well, why don't I just go out there and do something? If he can do it, I can do it.
Yeah, this is like the second in a long line of tell-alls that we're going to see now. And this is right on brand. She was the secretary of gaslighting, right? And this is just a continuation of that. The title alone, independent, it should be in denial is what the title really should be. Just the level of absurdity of this. And I agree, shame on anyone who buys this book for anything other than to maybe parody it, which I'm giving myself ideas here. But yeah, I mean, come on now.
Nan, Tim Graham name-checked John Kirby, who was the co-press secretary. I honestly believe that she just used the moment to figure out how to promote the book. But all of this will be as a grievance fest. Here's who was against me. Here didn't allow me to reach my full potential. I mean, she doesn't have any insights. And I think the only way that this sells is if she just basically goes after people. It's blue on blue like that. From strategically, when they ask you, I've done 4 books. And so they'll be like, what's the premise? Who's going to read this? And I have a feeling that what she did was to try to sell this as, I'm going to name names. I'm going to go after people and talk about them. And at least in some way, Hachette, who's the publisher, must have bought in. But I don't think that she ever had the access. So she can't tell you inside stories, but she can talk about all of these people who attacked her or didn't let her actually do what she wanted to do or something like that.
Sean, I think that's a great insight. I have trouble imagining people will not care about Karine Jean Pierre's experience as the press secretary because we all saw it and we all thought she was awful. So really the only reason they would read the book would be to try to find out, what kind of dirt she might be able to reveal about the inner workings of the Biden White House. Because yes, as you've said, or the AUTOPEN White House, perhaps we should call it.
Well, let's get to that in a minute.
I do find it fascinating that she has, what does it say about the Democratic Party that Karine Jean Pierre, who was its chief liar, although a terrible one, an incompetent one, which is kind of on brand for the party, that she is not willing to associate herself with it anymore. I mean, it's a real repudiation of where they are right now. Not that her defection will likely make them any better.
Tim Graham, when I did my first book, The Briefing, available on Amazon, it's a great Father's Day gift. Every time I did an interview, people would say, you lied. You in Kradsa. I mean, look, we Google Sean Spicer. You'll see what I'm talking about in case you didn't know. But I feel like she sat there and gaslit us, as Elsa put it, talking about he's so fit, he can run circles around me. He tires me out. That's a lie. Or frankly, that she should embrace the Maha movement because she's that unhealthy. Either one has to be true. Either that she's that physically unfit and has some medical issues that he does really run laps around her, which is, again, more of a medical thing. And Nan maybe can weigh in with her medical knowledge. Or she lied to us. But I do think that she's not that unfit and that she did lie. And yet I don't see anyone calling her a liar or that at least in the media. And you guys at the Media Research Center, that's what you guys look at. I just have not seen one media outlet say, known liar or Karine Jean Pierre is going to have a lot to answer to or anything. It's more like, wow, she's got a book.
Well, off the top of my head, I believe the number of PolitiFact checks on Karine Jean Pierre is 2. I also believe the number of their checks on Jen Psaki is 2. It took them about a month to do 4 of them on Caroline Leavitt. And so, yeah, the so-called mainstream doesn't really want to get into that. These sorts of fights they have somewhere else. Now, if she needs to have a fitness routine, I'm sure, Sean, you could recommend to her Dancing with the Stars. She could wear frilly shirts.
Yes. Oh, actually, okay.
Take the maracas,
Yeah, it was actually, that was some of the best shape of my life, for goodness sakes. Good call. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see. Elsa, there's a report out there that she watched Jen Psaki leave the White House and get this job at MSNBC, and she thought, I should get something similar, right? She apparently really wanted to co-host The View, which I think she probably would have fit in well on, to be honest. And she was pissed that she didn't get offered this. And that's why, and part of this book is, hey, I didn't get the offers that I thought I'd get, so I might as well write a tell-all book to help pay for whatever it is I do because no one else wants to hire me because I was so epically unqualified for the job.
Yeah, I just thinking back briefly, I think we can all just think of her press conferences, and they were filled with statements like, I don't have the answer for that right now. I don't have the answer for that right now. I'll have to get back to you. I can't answer that. I mean, every response in every press conference was basically that. So who is going to want her on a show? She has nothing to say, except that she has nothing to say. So it's understandable that's a hard pass. It's unsurprising that she would, put out this tell-all book, and even less surprising that the mainstream media is not even batting an eye at it. No criticism, no critique of it, anything. They just say, okay, because they're all going to follow suit.
All right. Another epic fail, by the way, and this is why I actually do believe that book won't sell more than like 5,000 copies, is my old buddy, Jim Acosta, who I got to tangle with a little in the briefing room. He got fired from CNN, as we all know. He held this live event in DC, and he put out, like, I've got all these special guests, including Rosie O'Donnell, and he pipes her in, and man, it was an epic fail, like Karine Jean Pierre level fail. No one showed up for this thing. He tried to bill it as like, I've got all these left-leaning people coming in and this is going to be great. But it was literally, I mean, the Free Beacon wrote about this, that like right before the event, it was at the theater here in DC. Jim goes on his Instagram and all these social media, and he writes, there are some tickets left, he said. He has a newsletter on Substack. He told his followers before taking the stage, according to the Washington Free Beacon, at the Lincoln Theater in Washington, D.C. to host a live town hall. And apparently it wasn't just some tickets. It was a lot of tickets. Like they finally, when it went live, it was not good. And listen, man, just so you know, you might be really smart and a doctor. I know a lot about crowd sizes, and this was an epic failure. Like I just, again, it was unbelievable. He had these people, and I think he thought everyone's going to want to come see it. That's telling to me that for all these guys on the left that think that there's this huge movement that want to get behind him, it's just not there.
No, well, look at Don Lemon. Right?
No, I don't want to look.
I know. I'd rather not look either. But a very similar story. And these people were shielded for years in the left-wing media, dominant media bubble. And I think among the many effects of, number one, the detrimental effects of the Obama into Biden years, into AUTOPEN years, and the triumph of President Trump is that people really do feel societally, we feel liberated to say, I don't care about you, Jim Acosta. I don't put any credence in what you say. I don't care what Rosie O'Donnell says from Ireland with her odd videos that show us, sadly, none of the beauty of that extraordinary country. She must live in a nice spot. Go out and picture yourself among the landscape. These people have put themselves. Now they are cocooned on an island of irrelevance. I'm assuming Mr. Acosta must have noticed that there was a very small audience. Will he learn anything from that?
Tim, doubtful. Tim Graham, to Nan's point, will he learn anything? And the thing that I think isn't about what Jim Acosta will learn, because he's already been fired and he now had an epic failure, which I assume probably cost him some money, because I assume the Warner Theater is not cheap. But I think there's a broader point that is interesting to me. All of these quote unquote media personalities that call themselves reporters like to say that, like, I'm straight down the middle, I just the facts, ma'am, kind of thing. And then when they leave, and in this case, Jim is, he got fired and he's trying to do something. But whether or not they go to, somewhere else, once they're freed, the pattern is always that they can suddenly emerge and speak for themselves. And Jim invited Olivia Troy, Miles Taylor, the guy who wrote Anonymous, all of these left wingers to come bash Trump. And I guess the thing that's interesting, and you guys at the Media Research Center see this all the time, but it's like they think people believe that they're not biased. Right. And then Jim Acosta comes out and he's now like, Trump must be stopped and all this stuff, which, again, I think anyone with a brain would have known it. but it's almost like there's just a continuation of a pattern. Media personality leaves or gets fired from outlet, fill in the blank, and then suddenly tell us, oh yeah, I'm a big leftist.
Yeah, I mean, I guess some of them were reporters. I think when Joy Reid does it, nobody buys that she's really ever been a journalist. But yeah, certainly in Jim Acosta's case, you know, I feel like we should have bought tickets. We could have had a row of newsbusters and we'd all stand up and demand to get our questions in.
Oh, so good.
Wouldn't that have been fun?
Oh, yes.
You're talking about us. You're talking about us. I demand a question.
Oh, no. Actually, Megyn Kelly, hat tip to her for bringing this up. Like, I didn't even know he did the event, but that tells you, I agree, that would have been fun. Next time that happens, Tim Graham, you call me. I'm with you.
Well, get up and demand your money back.
That would have been awesome. Although, from the looks of it, I think that they probably ended up giving away most of the tickets. Elsa, Kurt, I want to get to a little bit more of a serious subject because we've talked about Biden's use of the AUTOPEN. And yesterday, Trump actually stopped just talking about it and issued an executive order. And this is what was in the executive order. He wrote, in recent months, it's become increasingly apparent that that former President Biden's aides abused the power of presidential signatures through the use of an AUTOPEN to conceal Biden's cognitive decline and assert Article 2 authority. So the point that I have tried to make to folks is everybody uses an AUTOPEN, right? Members of Congress, presidents. When you get that birthday card, folks, and I'm just telling you right now, when it says Melania and I wish you the greatest 27th birthday, sending you great, he didn't actually sign it. Just sorry to, be a wet blanket on this. Nan, I don't know if you ever did this as a member of Congress, but I mean, this is a pretty standard thing.
Yes.
The difference, Elsa, is there's a difference between birthday wishes, Christmas greetings, happy bar mitzvah, than people using the name without you knowing that, the intent, right? And disguising some of these things. And I actually think, because everyone I've heard goes, oh, why is Trump looking at this? Well, I think that there's the validity of the action. If you know that Biden didn't know that his name was used to sign, fill in the blank, executive order, law, etc., and he didn't know that, and the top ring around him did things, that's a problem.
It's a huge problem. And I'm blown away at the number of people that are saying things like, oh, it's over and done with. He's not the president anymore. Who cares anymore? I care. Americans should care.
Yes.
That entire presidency, which we really need to stop calling it the Biden administration. It was the Biden handler administration, right? He doesn't get to have his own administration anymore. There's no possible way. I mean, this puts every single thing into question because you have to go back and figure out how long this has actually been going on. How many, I don't know, executive orders, how many pardons, everything that was done not by him. I mean, they should be all nullified and just erased from the record. Will it happen? I mean, I think I have this, and I think a lot of Americans have this exhaustion of waiting. And this is not a knock at all on President Trump and this administration. They are working at lightning speed and getting so much done. But there's so much to do. There's so much accountability to be held. And we just have this fear of disappointment that they're not going to be held accountable. We know Biden's not going to. I mean, he doesn't have long for this world. And I don't mean to be mean about it, but we know he's getting off scot-free, right? I mean, we know that, but there's got to be some accountability here, whether it's jail time, whatever consequence can be done. That's what I want to see.
Nan, you're the only one on the panel that I know of that has a medical degree.
Yeah.
I asked this to Jim Jordan yesterday on the show, but I do think that what the issue in my mind is, I mean, Elsa says, and I think respectfully, because all of us, I don't wish any ill will to the guy, but he just announced his cancer diagnosis. But how do you go back in time? And I mean this in all seriousness, like if 4 years ago you made a decision and I go, okay, well, how can the White House or the House Oversight Committee, whomever, go back in time and say, did he know, was he aware of X at the time? If you put both your medical degree and your time as a member of Congress together, how would you advise the House Oversight Committee to look at this in a way that's constructive?
Well, I think it's very helpful. I mean, it's vital Sean, that the House, this very tiny majority we have in the House, enables us to cast the harsh light that needs to be cast on the subsidiaries of Biden in this last administration, starting with Kevin O'Connor, his personal doctor. He has refused to appear voluntarily. He will now be subpoenaed. He will be put under oath. Either that or he will refuse to appear, and then he will end up obviously in contempt. But that will speak volumes in and of itself. So I strongly favor putting every single individual on the stand, up to and include. I mean, I'd love to get Joe Biden there but to demonstrate his utter incompetence. Jill Biden, Hunter Biden, no one should be exempt from this testimony process. And whatever pardons were issued, we know there were, Hunter got a very big one, that does not exempt him from being required to testify before Congress. And we do need to piece this together. This is a very, very important part of our history. This is a precedent setter. I personally, and I've said it publicly, I think President Biden has Lewy body dementia, and it can be slowly progressive, more cognitive than motor symptoms, but the motor symptoms tend to be in line with Parkinson's disease, which is certainly what some of his motor behavior resembles. And I said that during the 2020 cycle that I thought he had dementia, and I wasn't alone. So clearly something was going on, and we will simply have to get all the testimony that we can to create as thorough a picture as we can.
I want Tim Graham's take on this, but before I do that, Nan, I just want to, like, if James Comer, the chairman of the House Oversight Committee, calls you today and says, Nan, you know this body well, and you're a doctor, what is the first question I should ask to Kevin O'Connor, the doctor? How can I frame this in a way that he can't just sort of dodge?
I think the first question, because, obviously he'll be under oath. So, I would remind him that we can subpoena certain records. I don't know how deeply we can go into his personal health records, but I'm sure there must be, there are some records that are accessible to the public. But Dr. O'Connor, did you ever test President Biden for dementia in any form, either in Washington at a medical facility within Washington, D.C., in the White House, or in his personal residences?
Oh, I like that. Tim Graham, as we talk about this, and I'm thinking of how Nan is playing this out, do you remember when Robert Mueller testified about the report, and he sort of blew it because he looked like he wasn't aware of what was in the report, and it was clear, like people kind of, it was like looking behind the curtain in The Wizard of Oz. It was like, oh my God, this big guy that's been doing all this isn't really there. And I think to Nan's point, if we can put the light of day on this issue, then I think we may expose what's happening or what happened.
Yeah, but this is the fascinating part, is I look at all of this, and this is the one part of the whole Jake Tapper book tour that really underlines the problem, which is, and he's said this on pretty much every interview he's done, when you've decided that Donald Trump is an existential threat to democracy, you will use it to defend all kinds of, dramatic lying, all kinds of corruption, because we have to do positively everything to prevent Trump from coming back. And that's really what we had. That's what we've had this whole time. Now, you certainly remember how much they made fun of Ronnie Jackson, how much they made fun of Trump's other doctors. They always made fun. They were making fun of Trump's medical condition when he had COVID. When he, they were dubious about whether he was actually shot in the ear.
Oh God!
I mean, they have such a dramatic skepticism about Trump's health, and they're starting it all over again.
Love it.
And it's that dramatic imbalance of how they think Trump's health was a constant scandal, and they've tried to suggest that somehow this wasn't a scandal at all.
Yeah. Elsa, let me talk to some serious stuff. Yesterday, the president held two calls. He talked to Putin, and he talked to Communist Chairman Xi in China. On the Putin thing, what I thought was fascinating, and he put this in a truth, was I talked to Putin. Basically, I'm trying to get to peace, but he's going to retaliate for what Ukraine did. On the Xi readout, it's again, this is all in motion right now, but I don't know. Like on the one that fascinates me the most is actually the Putin one, because I feel like what wasn't said in the truth, like I want to know what didn't get how it got brought up. Like when Putin said, I got to fight back, I felt like, okay, you told the president that you have to strike back. Okay, I kind of get that. Like, meaning Putin's going to tell him that, right? Mr. President, they hit a bunch of our stuff. I got to go back. But did the president give him red lines and say, hey, listen, I get it, but no more civilians, no more, churches and hospitals. Like, I actually think that I'm literally bracing for the impact of Putin retaliation.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And before I get into them, let me just say, you're throwing me some curveballs here. I'm the jokester around here, and you're giving me serious stuff. I love it. I love it.
Sorry.
You're challenging me.
All right. Well, all right. But I did. I mean,
No, we're good.
We talked about Karine Jean Pierre. She's a joke.
Yes.
And Jake
But,
Tapper.
seriously, I don't know what alternative, if I were to put myself, which I don't want to, but if I were to put myself in Putin's shoes, what else can he do? Like, what else can he do at this point but to he can't look weak. He can't look like he's just going to take it. And as far as Trump,
Exactly.
I mean, what is he going to do here? You do have to tread carefully. We don't want to be involved in, world war, and we certainly don't want one to happen, period, at all. So this is extremely delicate, very concerning. I really don't know, but I feel extremely concerned by all of it, as we all should, obviously.
Yeah, Nan, it's interesting because these are two big issues, right? You got tariffs and trade, and actually, I think a lot more with China in terms of, I believe that everyone who watches the show knows that I believe that China is the existential threat to our future. And on Putin, he's trying. I agree with Elsa, though, Nan. I don't know. Like, everyone keeps acting like, oh, if Trump just arms Ukraine, it's over. And frankly, my answer to that is I'm not really sure. I think that may prolong things, but I don't think that solves things. And I don't know that there is a good answer.
There is no answer that is going to make us, the champions and lovers of freedom, happy. You're right, Sean. But I do take hope in this. President Trump, the only thing, two things. Number one, President Trump speaks, I think, as he does of Vladimir Putin, saying, I expect better of you, sir, is because he is allowing Putin a certain amount of face saving, if you will. So I think that's actually an important and deliberate thing that the president is doing. All the while, Donald Trump is doing everything he can to build our economic strength and particularly to build our presence in the hydrocarbon market, because it was Biden's action from day one to suppress the American hydrocarbon market, the American hydrocarbon industry, that allowed Vladimir Putin to become enormously enriched to the point that he felt he could take on the cost of pursuing this war with Ukraine. So I think that's the two prongs. And Sean, if you'll permit me for a second, if you'll indulge me, the follow-on question, by the way, for Mr. Comer, and I want it said on this show, the follow-on question he should ask of Kevin O'Connor, just FYI, is, I know you said that President Biden was on no regular medications. Did he receive intermittent or singular infusions or administration of agents in any medical facility in Washington, D.C., the White House, or personal residence?
This is why it's so good to have Nan Hayworth on the panel, because she brings it's how you box somebody in. And I think that's the key. Tim, I want to shift for a second to China. If anyone, I mean, I don't think anyone who's ever watched the show would not know where I stand on China. I believe it is the existential threat militarily, economically. I think after COVID, I still can't believe that we're like people are hanging out on TikTok. I'm like, guys, they sent us a virus and then said, oh, I don't know how it got there. And then they give us TikTok and say, just use it. Enter your personal data. Don't worry. And now, yesterday, we get a report about a fungus, literally bringing a fungus. This person who was I think it's the University of, is it Michigan?
Michigan.
And they're like, and it wasn't like, oh, it was in my check bag and it had a little thing. Like, you see people carrying medical things all the time. This was in his shoe. Like there was no intent to actually, this wasn't like some real research. And I'm sorry, but I feel like at some point everyone needs to have their head knocked on going, do you not get it? They are trying to take us out. Like first COVID, TikTok, they get our data, and now they're literally bringing a fungus in.
Well, in any conflict between great powers, when Donald Trump is president or when he's running for president, we saw what they did in 2020. You call it the Wuhan flu and you're a racist. You suggest that the virus originated in a lab and they suggest you're a cuckoo conspiracy theorist. It's a little like the Hunter Biden laptop. Then at some point, the fact checker said, well, maybe that's plausible now that Joe Biden is president. Their timing's always really interesting with the fact checking. But I think that we've seen this over the years. They're not skeptical or scared of the Chinese because they think anybody who's an enemy of Trump has to be kind of a good guy. They never sort of thought that there was this grand occasion that China should be seen as a global villain for bringing this Red Death to the world. And they've really never been held accountable for that.
Elsa Kurt, all right, jokester. When they announced this executive the executive order yesterday to review Biden, they named it Reviewing Certain Presidential Actions. I think the White House should look into this, and the president should call it the No Fungus Among Us executive order. And he researches okay, so I thought I'd run that by you. See if that met the joke.
5-year-old in me loved that so much. It's so much. The fungus among us. I will be stealing it. I haven't heard that in ages.
Can you just see Trump in the Oval though? Will Sharp brings in, he's the staff secretary. He says, Mr. President. He's always so stoic. He's so, the guy's just smart as heck, right? He does all this. I'm like, where's the teleprompter? When Will Sharp reads this, Mr. President, this executive order stems from your concern regarding national security. Therefore, the national security agencies, and I could just see Trump being like, so Will, it's the No Fungus Among Us, like executive action. Like to me, that would make news. It would be funny. Right? I don't know.
That was outstanding, by the way. I feel like you and I need to do a skit together now. I can be, Kamala. You can be Trump, right?
All right. Well, we'll see. But I just think that, I love what they're doing with not letting students come in. We let, literally 100,000+ kids come in from China to our universities. And we're like, oh my gosh, they're stealing our stuff and going home with it. Like, at some point, I'm like, guys, we're allowing this. You've got to think to yourself that President Xi's like, you got to be kidding me. They let us bring the COVID thing, and then they bought the PPE. Okay, got it. What if we send a fungus to them? And then, oh, wait a second. What if we send 100,000 Chinese kids to go over there, study all their stuff, and then come back because they're required to? They won't let us do that, will they? And I got to imagine that, at some point, Xi's advisors are like, sir, I got this crazy idea. All right, based on the other stuff, here's what I think. I'm like, they just keep doing stuff and we keep allowing it.
Right. And let's not forget God knows how much farmland and property that, they own in this country that is completely unacceptable. The list goes on and on and on. And you're exactly right, Sean. When's enough? When are we going to say we're done? That's it. And of course, now we're at the point where that's happening. And to answer the constant question from the left is this what you voted for? Heck yeah, it's what we voted for. Keep it coming. More, please. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And I hope he can be tougher and tougher. Tim Graham, big news out of Boulder, Colorado this week on these despicable attacks on people because of their faith. And you guys at the Media Research Center did some great work on calling out the media for this. What did you guys find?
Well, once again, these sorts of things happen and their first response is all defensive. You know, they really wanted to suppress that the assailant here was an illegal immigrant. I mean, some media outlets are still suppressing that. Until, of course, then they could say, ICE is trying to deport the whole family. How horrible is that? But they tiptoed into all of this in such a way that they didn't want to acknowledge that clearly this was an anti-Semitic incident, you know, and then once he was actually processed and says, oh, I want to kill all the Zionists, then they're like, oh, okay. But, you know, you cannot trust these people in the first 24 hours of a story like this, where obviously you recall on CNN where they were denouncing the FBI for daring to call it a terror attack, you know, in contradiction with the local police. You know, so I just have to say, when these things break, you can't trust the CNNs in the first 6 to 12 hours. They're the same people that were trying to suggest Trump wasn't shot at the beginning. So if you were going to question, you know, who goes off half-cocked, it's CNN. You know, it can be the networks. And, you know, thank goodness that eventually the story comes out. But why does it take so long? And why are they so skeptical? It's all of their partisan biases.
Yeah. All right. Before we get to winners and losers, there is a big question that the Democratic Party, like, I think this is a big threshold question about what Kamala Harris does, because if she runs for governor of California, that takes her out of the presidential race. I think by all measures, like, I think she knows that, everyone else knows it. So what she does and when actually will help shape the 2028 field. So, Elsa, do you, if you had to bet money right now, does she run for governor or president?
You know, I would say governor. Because it's probably her closest thing to a sure bet of the two.
Yeah.
And who knows? Ego may win, you know? Yeah.
Nan Hayworth, what do you, I actually am with Elsa on this. I think she goes governor because it's easy. I don't think she actually clears the field, but I think she thinks she does. So it's she doesn't know, she's never held a private sector job. So, I mean, I think she goes governor. Nan Hayworth, what do you say?
Oh, I agree, because Californians have perhaps the most egregious track record of voting for the stupidest possible candidates. So, yeah.
Tim Graham.
That's her wheelhouse right there.
Yeah. Tim Graham, what do you think?
I was hoping she would write a book declaring herself independent.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on. Hold on. I got breaking news. Jake Tapper has announced another book. It's called A Second Sin, How Karine Jean Pierre Was Incompetent at Her Job with Insight. Yeah. Sorry to interrupt you. Jake has actually announced just now, as we're on air, a second book about the second sin of Karine Jean Pierre's incompetence. I hate to interrupt you. I just wish, I wish that, and this is an open invitation, I wish that I could get Kamala to come on the show and answer the question. Hold on, I'm being told by a producer. Yep, we've got Kamala Harris. Kamala, Madam Vice President, my apologies. Can you tell us whether you will be running for governor or vice president?
But listen, here's the thing, okay? And when you think about it, when you think about all of the things in their totality, right? What you need to think about the most is that whether I'm doing something in the present or in the future, right? I mean, full stop. Here's what you need to think about, that we can be unburdened by what has been, right? And in order for me to become the governor of California, that is a thing that might very well happen, right?
Yeah.
Madam Vice President, the clarity was fantastic. You could not be more clear. It was like a Venn diagram of clarity. All right, guys. Thank you, Elsa. If you haven't seen Elsa's Kamala, by the way, go to her Instagram. Honestly, it gives me, every time I'm feeling down, I just go and I listen and I laugh because she got the cackle. She's got it all down. Guys, before we leave, I want to go through this quickly because we don't have a ton of time. I want to know who you think won and lost the week. Nan Hayworth, I'll start with you.
The winners, the women and girls of the state of Nebraska. Governor Pillen has just signed into law a prohibition on biological males being allowed to compete in girls and women's sports. And conversely, California, apropos of what we were just talking about, the women and girls of California who participate in sports have been told that biological males will still be able to compete against them, but the girls will be given spots on the winner's podium, as if that's a consolation.
Unbelievable. Tim Graham, winner and loser of the week.
Well, I'm sorry. I got to be political.
Yeah.
It's a big week for trying to defund PBS and NPR. And
yes,
the CEO of National Public Radio, Catherine Maher, just beclowns herself routinely. And she did this again this week in a podcast with the Wall Street Journal, not the editorial page of guys, but I guess the regular newsy people, where they said, why is it that Republicans think NPR is liberal bias? And once again, she said, NPR is nonpartisan. And then she added, we are centrist.
Yes. Oh, no, it's a fact.
It's you just say, does this podcast come with a laugh track, or does it come with a community notes?
All right, quickly, give me your winner.
Well, look, I'm going to turn it around and say, thank goodness for Russ Vought and the White House for demanding an end, retract their money.
Yes, 100%. Elsa Kurt, your first winner and loser prediction or analysis. Give me who you have this week.
Listen, a little bit political too. I'm going to give a snarky, surprising one. I'm going to call Joe Biden the winner here. That guy got to eat ice cream for 4 years straight, hang out at the beach, and just live his best life there. Do a little traveling, having a great time, all on our dime.
Sure.
So, winner, chicken dinner for that guy, right? A bit of sarcasm.
Yeah, I like it.
Sorry. Loser? Oh boy, I don't know. You know what? I got to go with one of our topics, Jim Acosta.
One last, I know everybody has a phone here because I saw some of you guys looking at your phones during this. I want you to pull out your phone. I want you to turn the light on. Pull out the phone, turn the light on. You guys too. It may feel like we are surrounded in darkness.
Loser. Yeah. Just if you haven't watched the part where he tells everybody to hold up their camera flashlight, he said he had like a moment of rock star delusion there, and that's the problem with believing your own hype.
I saw that. He's like trying to create a moment, and it was an epic
clap.
fail. Yeah,
please clap.
Exactly. Please clap. All right. My loser of the week is Jerry Halliwell. She is one of the Spice Girls. She announced that she doesn't want the Spice Girls called the Spice Girls anymore because it's not inclusive. And then Victoria Beckham called her out and said, "Stop being woke, Spice." So as a Spice guy, I needed to call out Jerry Halliwell and thank Victoria Beckham. She literally said, Victoria, by the way, Posh Spice, one of my faves, said that we've got to just stop being woke, and this is amazing. My winner of the week, no one's seeing this coming, Rick Astley. He hit 1 billion streams on Spotify. We've all been rickrolled, and now we know why, because 1 billion of us have listened to Never Gonna Break You. It's amazing. Anyway, guys, thanks for being here. Elsa, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming here. Nan Hayworth, Tim Graham from the Media Research Center. Appreciate you all. Guys, we've got a great show tomorrow. As I mentioned, James Blair, Deputy White House Chief of Staff, will be with us. We've got a great thing. Remember to sign up my newsletter, SeanSpicer.com, for the latest. Thanks for being here. We'll see you back here tomorrow on The Sean Spicer Show. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.